Good evening. We want to welcome you to the Salem Family Hour. And this hour is being sponsored by Salem Baptist Church of Chicago's Healthy Families Ministry. We're excited tonight to bring to you an amazing young man who will be teaching us tonight. He is a member of Salem, grew up in Salem. He currently lives in the Bay Area of California. He is a Wall Street trained financial analyst, graduated from the University of Illinois, has his MBA from Duke. So we are extremely excited to bring to you tonight Sean Ladrie, who will be our teacher. Sean.
Let me see. All right, can you guys hear me? Sorry about that. All right. Hi, I'm sorry about that. Michelle, can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you so much for that warm introduction. Salem is home, and so it's always great to come back home. I say this, and I mean it in all sincerity. If it wasn't for Salem, if it wasn't for Pastor Meeks and Mrs. Meeks and them following God, I don't know where I would have been. I grew up in Roseland and Allgale Gardens / Golden Gate. And Salem was there for me during my time of being a teenager. I've been very blessed and honored to have gone on to work on Wall Street and to have gone on to study at really great institutions. However, you think about the people that invested in you should you go on to be successful. The great friends that I've met at Salem, the lifelong friendships that I have, being under Reverend Carey in youth church. I think about those times, and I say all that to say this, that if God can help a knucklehead like me, who knew absolutely nothing about finances, who knew nothing about a stock or a bond, if you would have ran up to me when I was living in the Wild Hunnets and you asked me about like, hey, how do you invest in Nike? What's an equity dividend? I would have looked at you like you had three heads. So from the standpoint that finances can be taught, learning how to save and invest, these are things that we can learn, and they're not bigger than us. And like anything, it just takes time and effort. So thank you so much for joining us tonight. We have the honor of having two tremendous families on this panel. And this is going to be really a conversation, more so than a typical PowerPoint presentation where we're going through point by point. And so before we go any further, I wanted to kick it off to the Coleman family to introduce themselves, and then we'll go further.
Good evening. Good evening. My name is Stephen Coleman. This is my beautiful wife, Shauna Coleman. Hello. And we are a blended family of a total of 7. We have 5 children, and we've been members of Salem since 2007. And when we first came to Salem, it was actually a recommendation from my twin sister to come and check out this cool pastor that wore Air Force Ones and jerseys and just preached like nobody's business. And when I heard him, I have never heard a pastor teach the way that Reverend Meeks teaches. And so we were hooked from then. Our children have grown up in Salem since they were kids, and they continue to grow up through the youth and children's ministry. And we're just ecstatic to be here tonight. We serve with the Married Couples Ministry of Salem Baptist Church, and we also serve with the Discipleship Ministry of Salem Baptist Church. So once we got saved, once we came to Salem, we were really ready to get going. And we've been nothing but blessed since we've been a part of the Salem Baptist Church.
Our 5 children range from ages 21 to 6 years old. We have a 21-year-old son named Terrence, a 20-year-old daughter named Tasia. They're in their last year in their second year in college. We have a senior named Tavon. We have a 9th grader that's named Tyree. And this little one is Trinity, and she's going to 1st grade.
Hi, Trinity. Well, thank you. You guys have a lovely and small family. It seems like a really small family, right?
Just a little bit bigger than small. We medium. We'll call it medium.
Well, thank you guys so much. And I want to introduce our next family. Chanel, go ahead and introduce us to your lovely family, please.
All right, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Happy Sunday, everyone. Again, my name is Chanel, and it's such an honor to be selected to participate in this event. I'm very, very excited about it, and I hope to learn a lot about family financing. I am blessed to be a part of the greatest church in the world, Salem. And a lot of people ask the question, how does it feel to be a part of a mega church? Well, I don't feel like I'm a part of a mega church. It's such a welcoming and home feeling to be a member of Salem, and I just love it. So can you see both my girls?
Yes.
So I'm here today with my two daughters, but I do have my son who is 10 months that's missing from the camera because he would not participate. And then my fiance, of course, who's watching him so he can actively participate in the program. So my daughter, Alexis, which will be 18 this year, she's going into her senior year of high school. And then my daughter to my left is going into 7th grade, and she's 12 years old. So I do it, and then a 10-year-old. So I do have the wide spectrum from 10 months all the way till 18. So I'm sure it's a lot of things that I can learn to do differently and to plan ahead for financing for my family.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you both for those lovely introductions. You guys have beautiful families. And what I really like is that there is such a there's such a you know, in terms of actual generation, that you guys have a broad set of children who range from all the way in college all the way to, I believe, Chanel, you said 10 months a newborn, right? And so you know, we're not really just kind of focusing on high schoolers and you know, all the things that come with that, or college. You know, we're touching on a whole group list of things. So thank you guys. What I would say is that as we begin the conversation tonight, and you know, I kick it off just for this session, and as we get to, you know, go on and things, if you want to comment, or you feel like jumping in, for the audience and also for the moderator, if we can just you know, say, hey, Sean, and you can go right into your comment or feedback. Tonight, what we really want to do is talk about how we are in this really kind of interesting time. I think that's an understatement. You know, this pandemic has really caused a lot of havoc. And, you know, one of the things that we really are going to address tonight is the fact that how the pandemic has actually forced us to really kind of have conversations about money. Typically, whenever you have situations like this, and we go back to 2008 through the financial crash, it is you know, these hard times that really cause us to take a second look at our finances, and cause us to really kind of figure out, like, hey, you know, what's my next step? One of the things that we had a session with Michelle's group in terms of bouncing forward, right? And learning how to actually figure out, like, what should we be doing from a saving and investing standpoint. Before, as a family, you know, that dynamic is a little bit interesting because you don't make decisions on an island. You're not making a solo decision, right? And we're also in this, we're in it, and if we're being honest, and I'm dating myself, we're in a new phase, in a new generation. Previously, had I asked my mother, you know, so how are we looking on the finances? Like, how, we straight? We good? You know, you know, I don't got anything to worry about, right? You still gonna keep your job, right? I probably would have been slapped into next week had I said something like that. But kids today, and I have a teenager who's heading into college. Kids today want to be a part of those conversations. This is a different generation in the sense that, you know, we as parents and we as, you know, this moment, have really kind of forced them to grow up and to take on more things than necessarily we were given. If you think about the fact that, you know, your 3-year-old, probably a 3-year-old right now is probably going to be more technologically savvy than somebody who was working for NASA as an engineer back in 1950, right? That there is more technology in your iPhone than was in the first space shuttle, right? So, you know, kids, kids can handle a lot of things because we have positioned them to do so through technology. And I think that, you know, what was great for yesteryear does not apply today, right? And so it's good to have these conversations. I wanted to just kind of share with you guys that, you know, during the financial crisis or after the financial crisis, I was laid off. I was laid off my job, and it was one of the hardest things. It was something that, you know, out of my control. Wall Street actually had, you know, decided to do an actual large layoff. The bank that I was with, they laid off a number of people, a lot of hardworking men and women, being told, hey, look, you know, things have changed. And so it was at that moment that I had to actually do some self-reflecting, but then also too, I had to have this conversation with my family. So I remember sitting down and asking, you know, talking to my son about this and talking to him like an adult. And I think that, you know, I had a fear that, you know, he wasn't going to understand. I had a fear where I was projecting on him that, you know, the moment was too big for him, and that he should just sit down and just be in a child's place. And when we started talking, and my son at that time was probably about 10 or 11, he knew exactly what was going on. Like, he understood. And so, you know, we you know, don't give enough credit to our children to understand these concepts. And I think the great thing about what we're doing tonight is putting our children on a road to understand these practical things as it relates to money and to finances, because you know what? It has to start early, right? It has to start. These principles have to start early. You know, the same way that people are taught hate, right? We can teach our children about how to love, and more importantly, what to do with their finances, about good things, right? And so I'm so grateful to actually be on this journey with you guys tonight. So I want to start off, and I'll kick this off to Stephen. You know, we use big words like finances, and typically when we say finances, we're not talking about looking at somebody's balance sheet statement. We're not talking about looking at all their expenses and you know, income streams. What we're actually talking about is money. So, Stephen, how do you define money?
So recently, maybe about 2 years ago, me and my wife really had to sit down and have this same conversation. When we first met, when we first began dating, even before we were married, we really did not value money or even look at money the way that we look at it right now. So now we kind of view money as a tool. Yeah. And tools that you use essentially do what you tell them to do. So if I tell my money where to go, then I know it's going to be a rainy day fund here. I know this is taken care of, and I know that I should be able to see this, at least this amount of money in the checking account at the end of the month. Before, we were kind of just freewheeling it. You know, we would get paid, and what we began to see is most of our money went to fast food. Once we really sat down and went through our statements and went through everything. And so we really had to change the way that we looked at money, and we really began to define money as a tool to be used to accomplish and get things that we need and possibly things that we want, but to get them in a timely manner, not just going off of emotions, not just buying because, you know, it's the last one on the shelf. We got to get that last one, you know, but really making a plan of how we were going to do things. And we sat down and did that and went through that process because we were in house hunting phase. Okay. So we looked at our situation, we looked at our credit, we looked at what we had in the savings account, and we realized that we really had to make some changes, and we really had to start living a certain way. You know, it's okay to kind of splurge and have money for entertainment and do those things, long as you plan those things out. And once we began to do that, we began to reap some of those benefits. Not only did we begin to see our credit rise, but we began to see bills being paid early instead of being paid on time. And so once we kind of defined it as the tool that we look at it as of now, everything just began to take off from there.
Awesome. 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 Okay. And, you know, I want to hear from someone else in the household, hopefully someone under the age of 22. How do you guys define money? What is money to you?
I define money as like basically for me to get what I need to get or what I want to get. Like growing up, if I ever got some money from my parents or something, or found some money, I'm going out, I'm spending it instantly. But as I grew up, I noticed, okay, if I want to do this, if I want to get my career started off, I need the budget, put it in my finance. So like in my phone, I have, okay, this I can use like buy some candy, buy some food, go hang out with friends. This goes to my music and this and this and that. And then the others, I get to like splurge on everybody else, basically.
Okay. All right. I love it. I love what I'm hearing at the very beginning. And Shell, I'm gonna come to you guys. How do you define money? What do you what is your definition you use?
Well, just being very honest, I can relate to the losing a job. I worked for one of the largest school districts in Chicago for over 15 years. And it was one day I was called down to the office and said budget cuts. So you lost your position. And it was very scary. And I went through several life changes back to back that year. So I did have to sit down with my girls and have a really tough conversation. And I think my mom used to keep me from those conversations, my mom and dad, because they felt like I shouldn't worry about the adult things. But I realized that children still worry if your parents are stressed, whether you want them to or not. So I knew it was very important for them to sit with me and let's talk about things, our finances, and you know, what's the outlook for the future, knowing that mom is now unemployed. It was a very scary time, but I did view money as a crutch at first, that I could make my children happy. You know, my paychecks was allowing me to do fun things and travel and of course go to restaurants. And it really made me buckle down and look at the necessity of it. And how do I budget for things that we really need versus what I was splurging on the things that we want. And so I just really start putting things in perspective, which allowed me to now save more, or, you know, especially during this time of COVID, I really been able to sit in the house and look how much money we used to spend in restaurants or how much money we wasted on frivolous things and how now we can invest it so we can look at long-term goals together.
Yes.
I really view it now, as you say, the Coleman family, as a tool to get to the long-term goal, not just some temporary satisfaction.
Okay. I love just the definitions that I'm hearing about money, and we'll get into uses. And you know, the one thing that we want to be able to do, because you know, we want to be able to help people get to that enlightenment. I love the comment that I used to just kind of spend frivolously. Now I look at, you know, I look at kind of like what I can kind of splurge on. And you know, isn't it amazing that even in a crisis like this, that you know, God can actually sit us down and to really kind of make us do this self-evaluation. Like, hey, what are you doing with your money? What are you doing with your time? Right? And you know, the I don't want to get too far ahead and go down the road, but you know, money has money has a purpose. Money has a meaning. One of the things that I always was always impressed upon me growing up in youth church is that, you know, when purpose is not known, abuse is inevitable. And so if you don't know what your money is supposed to be doing, other things and other people will find ways to define what your money should be doing. And so I think it's it's on us. The onus is on us to say, what do we want our money to do? And you know, what time frame do we want to actually do that? So I don't want to go too far down the road. I kind of want to just stay here and talk a little bit more. And I would love to hear some more from the kids. So we talked about sort of like what money is. You know, Webster defines money as something that's generally accepted as a medium of exchange, a measure of value, or a means of payment. Just really quickly, you know, money right now is literally funny money. We used to, as a country, have something called the gold standard. And that meant that for every $1 that the United States Treasury would print in dollar bills, there was $1 of value in gold to stand behind it. So you couldn't print just money for the sake of printing money's sake. You literally had to have gold behind you to print it. Well, that we're no longer on the gold standard anymore. We literally just print money based upon our faith and credit to actually pay back our debtors, right? So it's interesting that literally money has no value. It literally is just, you know, it is something that we use as a tool, as a means of payments. But with that being said, I would love to hear from some of the kids in terms of like, what do you guys use your money for? And give some real examples. Like, I know one thing that's really that my son, he won't admit to it, but he always asks me for credits on the PlayStation store so he can buy and modify his man on NBA 2K. So I would just love to hear from the kids. And you know, what do you guys use money for?
Well, me personally, I used to travel a lot. Well, COVID stopped that, but I used to travel a lot competing in karate. So I would, being on the road, food is a necessity for me. I would like just be in the hotel rooms. I would like maybe like go to the store and get like card games for me and my friends or something. Or being at home, I would go out with my friends, out to eat a lot. Shoes, I do like shoes.
Who doesn't like kicks?
Right. And just I didn't think about what money was and the value it had in my life until COVID, when I wasn't, you know, moving around. I'm like, okay, what do I do with it now? It's just here, in my opinion. So that's how I view it.
The way I spend my money, it's different ways. I do use it for PlayStation often, but it's not a necessity at all. I feel like, to go into what my sister said, a lot of people, their money is kind of just, well, not a lot of people, because some people have been laid off and stuff, but as well, some people don't know what to do with their money since COVID has hit them, and they may do some splurging or some unnecessary spending for the fun of summer as well.
Yep.
It's limited to things that a lot of people can spend their money on, so it has helped some people, but it also has like very badly affected people.
All right. I love it. And Teddy, I'm not picking on you, but if you want to chime in, I saw you turn your video on. Did you have something you want to add? How are you spending your money?
Well, I view my money as like my time, because time is money. You feel me? So, like, literally all my money it deals with my music, for my career. You know what I mean? So, like, you know, with my career, I had to keep my appearance. So a lot of my money goes to clothes. A lot of my money goes to advertising and marketing on Facebook. It goes to advertising and marketing on Instagram, Snapchat, everything to help me, you know, because during COVID-19, the social distancing, that's really a problem for, you know, for people getting together. So for the way that I engage with my fans and connect with my fans is through my social media. So I'm really heavy on social media and spending money on marketing and advertising, basically my brand. So,
wow. And I love the fact that you're talking about how you're using your money specifically to help your career, right? So we start talking about things like marketing, customer acquisition costs, right? These are some heavy terms, man, and I'm proud of you.
Yeah, it's not easy. Of course, a lot of people think, with the career that I have going on, it's just, it's just about looking good. But you literally have to, literally in this career, time is money. So even if I don't have money, I can engage with my fans, by spending time with them, or just, just talking to them in general about certain subjects. So enlighten them on things that I know about, just, yeah.
Awesome. Okay. So as I go back to the Coleman family, I want us to keep track. So we've defined money as two things. Money is a tool, right? So beyond the definition textbook of money being a form or medium of exchange, money is a tool. But then also, I love what my brother just said. Money is time, right? And when we properly put money in its place, we can value it. And when we put a value on money, and we don't just treat it as some kind of, nebulous kind of, oh, I really don't know what money is. And we actually start to say, hey, no, this $5 literally is about, I want to say is about 30 minutes of my day. So you got to tell me why I really need to give you $5 so you can go to Starbucks and have your daily latte. And just because you say I need it, that's not a good enough reason, right? So anyone else in the room? I know we haven't heard from everybody, but I would love to hear from someone else. Yes, you had your hand raised. Go ahead.
Oh, so for me personally, I used to just spend money on candy, games, 2K, like you said. But now look at it as, if I want to start a barber career, I really got to buy clippers and get practice and buy these tools that I need to.
Yeah. Okay. So we've talked about defining money, and we talked about a little bit about spending. So I want to kind of bring it full circle, and this is kind of up for grabs. I want us to talk a little bit more about being conscious about our spending. So we have said that, listen, the pandemic in this current environment has forced us to be still, right? Has forced us to actually sit down. So, and it's not to say that, hey, I have a whole bunch of licenses. I got my MBA, and there's areas that I still struggle with in terms of money. So I'm just being honest. Nobody has it all together. And if they tell you that they do, they're lying. So from the standpoint that it's always a work in progress, what I really want to hear is, how are you guys in terms of thinking about how much you're spending? Has that taken place kind of over the last few months, or were you guys already thinking about this? And in terms of spending, I would love to hear more about kind of just, your process in terms of saying, okay, this is what we're spending daily, this is what we're spending monthly. I want to just kind of open it up, because I think a lot of times when we really don't kind of count the cost, if you will, when we really don't say, oh, wow, we just went through $200 in takeout in 1 week, right? We just and not so much but these kids, they didn't talk me out of $500 worth of gym shoes.
Right.
I got these Bobos on my feet, but all my kids looking good. They got Jordans. The latest Jordans dropped yesterday. Right. So talk to me a little bit more about kind of how you guys are being cognizant and being conscious about spending.
So
go ahead.
The comment I would say is, our middle child, Tavon, he wanted a baseball jersey. Okay. A baseball jersey, if y'all know, they're a little expensive, on the expensive end. And usually, we try to give them something that they want every now and then. But that baseball jersey during this pandemic is just a little bit too much for us. So I'm like, why can't I just go get you something from Walmart? The baseball jerseys at Walmart are cheap. So he's like, no, I got to have this one because it's out of state, so it costs more. And I'm like, well, that's not a necessity. It's a want. We don't need that right now. You know, we're trying to do this. So, you know, that's going to have to wait for another time. And he doesn't understand it. He just knows it's a want. And that's what he wants right now. And so we're trying to teach him like, no, you can't get it. You know, we got to save this for this. You know, the light bill coming up, we got to put that towards light, you know. So it's just little bitty things that they want. And when you tell them that they can't have it, his first response was, but y'all got it. You don't know what I got in my pocket.
The first bank of MOM and DAD. What you mean we ain't got it? Like, look, come on, man. Look, open up your wallet and give me that $200 for this jersey.
And just to piggyback on that, to your story, and also Chanel, to your story as well, you know, because of COVID-19 in April, I was laid off of my job. My position was just eliminated with my previous company. Yeah. And so that's forced us to even look at money even a little bit more different, because we have to kind of clamp down on some things because of some things we want to begin to do in the future, because we don't know where kind of COVID-19 is going right now, how long we're going to kind of be on this, you know, social distancing platform and everything, how long we're going to be on a virtual platform, what things will look like in the future. You don't want, it's not the time to really splurge like that. So it's kind of forced us to take even more of a step back, eat at home more often, and not splurge on those jerseys, not spend as much money on those V-Bucks, not do so many of those things that we normally wouldn't have cared about doing, because we're like, okay, everything is okay. But because the situation that we find ourselves in, it's forced us to kind of scrutinize money a little bit more.
And with us eating out more, we got a big family over here. So us eating out is like $200. They be like, Mama, can we eat out instead of you cooking? No, Mama gonna cook today. We gonna get it.
Yeah.
Okay. Chanel, you go ahead.
I was thinking, as you were talking, the Coleman family was talking, that not only looking at how I spend my money, but where I spend my money. Alea was asking for a debit card because her older sister, of course, has a bank account. And so she wanted a debit card. She wanted that freedom to be able to order on the game. And so when I purchased, it's a kid debit card, it actually breaks it down on how much money she could spend, how much money she needs to save, and how much money, what is it, invest? Is it spend? I think it's spend, invest, and save. Okay. And I get to allocate her funds that's in her account on what she could do for each. And I was like, wow, this is so great for her to learn at such a young age, that maybe I need to put myself on that budget where I spend, how I invest, and the places that I spend the money, because you actually can allocate the stores that she could spend the money. Yeah. So I really, really started looking into the way that I spend money. And so it made a difference now that I have time to sit down, not the haste of the day-to-day. I really have the time to sit down and look at finances. And what I realized with losing my job is that I didn't plan the way I should for the future. You know, I didn't look at ways to make my money make money. Yeah. And now I'm trying to teach that with them. We're playing around with trying to purchase stocks. We're rookies trust. But when we saw that we had made $5, we were excited on, on our money. So just trying to be conscious of ways that we can maintain a flow of income. When times like this happen, we have a nest egg put aside. And so actually making finances fun. So instead of just thinking, let's go out to eat for fun, we've been doing things that can actually benefit our family and making it fun. And so it all came from this little debit card from my 12-year-old, but it really was a way to make me look at the way I'm budgeting my money.
And the one thing is that what I'm hearing from you guys is that, that there have been real situations that you guys have been impacted by the pandemic. And I think you would literally be hard pressed. I mean, all of us know either somebody has been laid off, right? Somebody's been furloughed during this period of time. So, people try to get cute. They say, a recession is when, somebody gets laid off. A depression is when you get laid off, right? And so from that standpoint, we get impacted by these things. And I think that it's great when we can sit down with our kids and say, listen, we got to sit down and talk, okay? I know you guys are used to having a certain way, right? Like you guys, we go out to Buffalo Wild Wings in River Oaks, or we kind of occasionally might, when the tax refund check comes, we all go splurge at Red Lobster. But guess what? We're gonna have to buckle up together, okay? It ain't Buffalo Wild Wings, it's Harold's. It ain't Red Lobsters, it's Sharks or J&J Fish, right? So being able to talk to our kids in this way, I think does a couple of things. Number one, it takes the pressure off of you guys as parents to say the word no, right? And I think more importantly for kids, they understand where we're coming from, right? It's not sort of this endless spigot of money that it's like, hey, we have to actually make some sacrifices. We have to make some changes because this happened and it was unexpected, right? And what can we learn from this situation? We can learn from this situation that we need to get a better handle on our spending. We need to actually be more aggressive in terms of investing and saving, right? So that next time when something like this happens, hey, we're not caught unawares. We are prepared, right? We got a family plan here in California. And trust me, I grew up in the Midwest, born and raised. It's a little bit weird when the ground is moving underneath you, right? When you are just literally walking down the street, minding your own business, and then you start to move from side to side and you ain't like, it's like, okay, what's going on? This ain't funny. And so what they typically tell you to do as a family is to have a plan, right? So that should things happen where there's an earthquake, they tell you to have, a flashlight, to have, $100 in cash at hand, to have a medical kit, to have some type of MRE, meal ready plan, right? And to put this in a bag somewhere, right? So how is it that, in an earthquake, we can be advised to be prepared, but when it comes to financial crises and things that, that we can't see, there is no plan. And one of the things that I'm wrestling with is that if you look at not just, our own personal households, but there's so many other households who were not ready for this. Prior to the pandemic, it was reported that that 40% of Americans did not have $400 on hand for an emergency, right? So that meant that if somebody got their arm cut in something and there was a medical bill for $400, that couldn't get paid. And so, the one thing that we're thinking about is, okay, how we actually look at our spending, how do we have these tough conversations so that we can actually be prepared for next time. I want to kind of come back and talk to, talk a little bit more about kind of spending. And I would love to actually hear from the kids, kind of like, what are you guys' thoughts when you guys ask for things? Like when you guys ask for V-Bucks for Fortnite and you guys are told no, like, what's the thought that goes through your head?
Oh, okay. Well, the thing is, one of the thoughts that goes through my head is maybe I'll ask tomorrow, and maybe the answer will change, or maybe something will happen, maybe a miracle from God. I can get this thing, or I can pay for that thing. But one thing I like about this card is that my mom doesn't have to she doesn't really have to keep putting money in this card, because all of the money that I have in that card is mine. Mm-hmm. So it's like I still can't get it unless I ask for it. But if I do, if she gives it to me, I know I feel better because it's not coming out of her own pocket or her own account. So I won't put a dent in something, or I won't take money out so she can't pay for the needs that this family will have. So yeah, but I asked tomorrow about it.
All right. So ask tomorrow. All right. I like it. All right.
I'm gonna put a psychological standpoint. Exodus. I feel like, because I am a psychology major, so I know what I'm about the how things work in the kid's mind, because I had taken children's psychology class and how they think. Yeah. When kids ask their parents for something, whether it's money or a specific item, they run to their parent because that's who they feel like, if they got it, they'll give it to them. Right. Now, if the parents say no, I feel like that's kind of a lot of, how can I put it? I would say that's a big problem in Black households today, because a lot of times if the parents say no, the kid he's gonna get what he wants. You feel me? You know what I mean? So whether it's something as small as a bag of chips or a candy bar, if the parent says no, the kid just won't. The kid, you might steal the candy bar, you might steal the bag of chips. You know what I mean? I think a lot of times when a kid asks for something, maybe that's not too important. It's just to improve how they feel about themselves, or just to improve life at that moment. You know what I mean? Because it's the little things in life. So like, the V-Bucks, the PlayStation cards, it's little things like that that makes life, that makes life good. So I feel like a lot of the times when parents say no, especially if they don't have a specific reason for saying no, that's kind of like, like I never understood if a parent said no if they didn't have a specific reason for it. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? So it's not always a bad thing, but that's from a psychological standpoint, that sometimes when a parent says no, more than likely the kid is asking because who else can he get it from? You know what I mean? If he can't get it, who else is he gonna get it from? That's when you turn to the parents. The parents say no. A lot of the times if the kid really wants that, by all means he's gonna get it. You know what I mean? Yeah. And that's illegally or legally. Yeah.
Teddy, that's a good point. Yeah, you bring up a real issue. So it's incumbent upon parents. It's incumbent upon us as parents to have conversations with kids. And listen, we don't have to graduate our kids from middle school or from elementary or high school all the way to college and say, okay, this is the reason why I can't give you the $200 that you're asking for new Jordans. So let me run through all these expenses, right? Like, you don't need to actually be an accountant and open up the books for your kids. Like, honestly, no should be no, but giving them a little bit of background, right? Being able to
background always, it always helps, because at the end of the day, if we as humans, we seek knowledge, you feel me? So we're bound to ask questions. So who's to say that the kid is wrong for wanting to know why, If you want to know right, you just give them the real truth. You give it to them right. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And as I was talking about that dynamic about when I was growing up, because listen, we were poor. Right. We were poor. I mean, I literally remember going into our couch and trying to find loose change. And if I'd find some loose change, I go downstairs, I go to the barbecue place, I have my little dollar, give me an order of fries. And if the dude was the dude who actually was cool with me, he'd slip me a little white bread on the side. And man, I go around the corner and eat that thing like I was having Sunday brunch, like it was like a big dinner, right? And so from that standpoint, I know what it's like to be without. And I think, from that from that interest and that perspective is that, this is a different generation. Like my mother and my father, they were not pulling me aside to say, hey, look, I lost my job and, whatever's in the refrigerator, that's what's going to be in the refrigerator for the next couple of weeks. Right. But like I said, hearing from Teddy, hearing from your daughter, Chanel, that, kids today, they are so much advanced than where we were. And this time and technology has forced them to grow up. And, it's really great to have these conversations so that we can have it together as a family. What I want to do before we open it up for general questions, I want to talk about kind of like what are some of the main areas that are an issue as it relates to spending. Now, we talked about it a little bit in terms of, hey, eating out, but I want to hear from, I want to hear from both sides in terms of like, hey, if I have my druthers, I would really like to have more of this. I would really like to be able to do X, right? And the reason why is because, for our homework, what I want to do is, and Chanel, you're doing it already. I love the idea of having a debit card already set up so that it's already kind of saying, okay, hey, here's your spending allotment, here's your saving allotment, and here's your investing allotment. And you're still in my thunder a little bit, but I won't go too far into that. But what I want to do is hear a little bit more for both families, but more importantly for our audience, like what are some common issues in terms of like spending items that come up that particularly can cause a little bit of friction in the house.
I want to say something quick to piggyback on Teddy in reference to what you just asked.
Yeah.
When telling our children no, I think it's very important to understand that in life, you're not going to always be told yes. And then just because we're your parents, we're not obligated to give you everything that you want. In life, you have to earn it. And sometimes that's a culture shock or a shock as you get older and an adult because you still feel entitled. You feel like the world is going to present things to you just because you want it. And you miss the concept of that I have to earn it. And so I do tell my children no, letting them know, yes, I probably could afford to purchase it, but what have you done to earn it? And good grades is not it. You get good grades for yourself. That's building towards your future. Cleaning your room, that's because this is our dwelling. We live here together, so you should want to live in a clean space. So what are you doing to actually earn something that you want? Not needs, because I'm obligated to provide your needs, but what is it that you're doing to earn it? And so I think that's very important, Teddy, that yes, when I do tell them no, I might not give you a specific reason no, but what have you done to earn it? Why do you feel like you deserve me to spend my money on such an item? And I think that's definitely a conversation that should be had a lot because I faced that harsh reality being the baby. I was spoiled, but when I went away to college, nobody was handing me anything. And then I was like, oh my goodness, I have to eat noodles. I didn't have to do this. My mother used to cook all the time. So just the reality of understanding that you have to earn and work hard for the things that you want. Very important. And it should be taught as early as 11 years old, 10 years old, as soon as they can understand it.
Absolutely.
And I'm sorry, I agree with you, Chanel. I grew up with a single parent. My mom raised me and my three sisters together. And I think it was because we didn't get a lot of everything that we wanted all the time, that it kind of forced you, once you got of age, to realize I got to go out and get it. I got to work for it. I got to make sure that I do what I need to do. But it gave me, I think, that drive and that push to say, you know what? Nobody's going to do it for me. I'm going to go do it for myself. Now I can have some help along the way, but I gotta put the first foot out there. I got to take the first step, and then people can help me along the way. But if I don't have to drive myself, then it's not going to happen.
Yeah. Those are really good points in terms of just being able to say, what I keep hearing from you both, Stephen and Chanel, in terms of just, making sort of like materializing what I want. So how do I go, like the motivation factor, right? And I think that so many times when I talk to families and families about money, but just in general too, is that, the motivation factor, right? So many times, we try, and again, I'm guilty of it as well, is that, you try to apply what worked for you to your kids. And it's not one size fits all. And it's really trying to figure out like, hey, what is that motivating factor? Because if you say, okay, I'm going to give you an allowance, and your allowance should be based off of you keeping your grades up, right? And then literally, the kid is like, nah, I'm good with having C's, D's, and F's. And then it's like, well, how do you like how do you motivate them at that point, right? But really kind of, and I say all this is that, I think as a family, in order to teach these financial principles and just really kind of connecting, is that we have to figure out like, hey, what is going to be the motivating, the catalyst that's going to help somebody really kind of internalize what this money actually means, that they're willing to actually go work for it, right? And I love the fact that Teddy said, hey, look, you know, I have a business and I'm thinking about this. That took self-actualization. That took somebody saying, hey, look, this means something important to me. And I think that, you know, one of the interesting asks for us as parents is that, you know, one of the challenges is that we have to figure out what is that motivating factor, right? Because for someone, it might literally be, okay, I don't want to hear their mouth, so I'm gonna go ahead and clean so I can get my $20, right? Or for somebody else, it's like, look, I gotta get these straight A's because they're gonna kick me out. They said, right? So what I want to do is that we have about less than 10 minutes left. I want to open it up to questions and comments, but then also too, before we depart, I have some homework, and it's a fun assignment, and you guys get to do it as a family. But you know, I think that it's going to really kind of bring it home in terms of just helping everyone understand, okay, that money is time and money is a tool. So I promise you're going to like this activity. Let's open it up for questions, and let's just go for that. So I think, let me be able to see here. Now, Michelle, am I able to actually see the questions on the side?
You should actually be able to see. We're looking at the comments from Facebook. Okay. And so we'll read the comments, any questions that anyone may have.
Okay.
The question, we have a question. What's the first step to changing your financial situation?
I have some thoughts on that. I'm going to be quiet. What do you guys think? What is the first step to changing your financial situation or your financial perspective?
Okay. Like, is like necessary. I feel like planning, like spending your money, because if you don't have a plan on how to spend your money, then you're gonna be lost and you're just gonna, spend the money and you don't know where your money is going. So I feel like it should be planned, and then you gotta be responsible for what you're doing. So I feel like that those are important terms when spending money. Okay.
I love it. I love it. Coming up with a plan. If you're not, if you're failing to plan, you're planning to fail. I love it.
I would say making sure everyone in your household, your family is on the same page on where you are. That helps a lot. So you guys can work together on what you need, places to spend, stuff like that.
Yeah. One of the things, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I think that one thing, the first step to start changing your financial situation is trying to budget more, because a lot of people in the US and across the world tend to just like start spending money without, like, I don't want to say unconsciously, but like spending money without even knowing it. Like, you just going out and eating all the time. You're spending money on stuff that you don't need, shoes, clothes, but you have all of these shoes and clothes in the house and stuff like that.
Yep.
So I feel like you need to start budgeting more and just sitting down and actually looking at your financial situation and see what you can do to improve it.
Mm-hmm. I love it. I love it. I want to piggyback and say this is that we as Americans, right? We as Americans have been programmed to be consumers. And whenever we say consumers, we really don't think about like the root word. It just means to consume. Like, if we think about how much food we throw out on a year in, year out basis, and I'm not talking about the stuff that you buy and you max out day one when it comes home, like before you guys even get home, you know, that bag of chips is gone in the car, right? I'm talking about just in general, like like canned goods and just pasta and stuff. So we buy all of these things because our economy and our country literally is set up to make us buy stuff. That's how this economy goes. We are not manufacturing things like we used to. We're not manufacturing cars. We're not manufacturing big locomotives and trains. Like, we have become a service-based economy. And so getting mommy to say yes the next day, hoping that she forgot. That's how this economy is based off of. That's how it runs. So the one thing I would say in terms of how do you turn your financial situation around is, number one, sit down and realize that acknowledging where you are is the hardest part, because that requires self-internalization, right? It requires us to sit down and have a really hard conversation like, hey, it's not working out. What I've been doing is not working out. It's not going to continue. It's not going to help me get from point A to point B. What do I need to do? And being able to just kind of sit down and take an inventory. Bible talks about taking account of things, right? Like, that is the first step. That's the hardest step. And, you know, the great thing about it, and I said this earlier, that nobody ever has it all together, that this is a process. Being able to manage your money literally manage is a verb. So it's an ongoing process. Either you're doing it or you're not. And I love what that young lady, I didn't catch her name behind you, Stephen. I didn't catch your name, sweetheart.
Asia.
I love what Keisha said. Keisha said having a plan.
Tasia.
It's
Tasia. I'm sorry, Tasia. I love what Tasia said in terms of having a plan, right? We have to have a plan because, again, we're in a consumer-based economy. Our kids are constantly being inundated with, hey, this is the next cool game. You really need this Barbie doll. You really need this game. You really need this mod, right? You really need all this. Like, if you think about Fortnite, and I'm dating myself, when I first played Nintendo years ago, that, you know, you had to pay for the cartridge. You had to pay for the game. You had to blow inside of it. You had to get some alcohol swipes and swabs and all that, right? Yeah. They give away Fortnite. There is no store that you go to buy Fortnite. Fortnite is free. You know what's not free? All the mods, all the characters, all the seasons, right? That ain't free. And so from that standpoint, our kids are being bombarded to like, hey, buy this. There's a sale, right? And so, you know, it's great when we can have these conversations about, hey, you know, money doesn't just grow on trees. I work really hard, right? And for me to pass along why my no is no, let me kind of share with you where I'm coming from. Let me share with you, right? Let's have a conversation as a family about kind of where we're going. We have a minute left, and I'll probably, Michelle, if it's okay, try to respond to the comments in the actual YouTube section, but I want to give some homework. So you guys ready for some homework for next week?
Yes.
Yes. Come on, you gotta be excited.
Yes, let's do it.
I don't know what it is first.
All right. Okay. There's a game. Okay, so it's a game. All right. There's a game that just came out. It's sweeping the nation. It's one of the best things that a family can do. It just came out this year. I think it's called Monopoly. So what I want you guys to do as a family, and for anybody under the sound of my voice, play Monopoly with your kids. Okay. Play Monopoly, but no, don't play to win, because Steven looks like he's the dude that tries to win and will flip the board over if he doesn't win. Because I cheat.
You know me, John.
I cheat at Monopoly. Like, they don't want me to be the banker because I be sliding hundreds and 500s. But I want you guys to play Monopoly this week, and you know, let's be intentional about it. Let's have fun, but let's be intentional. Let's talk to our kids about why you actually need a banker, right? What is the banker's role, right? What does chance and what does the community chest actually represent, right? Because if we really apply it to our lives right now, the freaking pandemic is like a chance card, right? That was the card nobody saw coming. Nobody saw pandemic 2020, right? So, you know, let's have some fun playing Monopoly. Let's kind of talk about the things. Let's talk about the fact that, hey, you got delayed gratification, right? What is delayed gratification? Right? So typically in most Black households, when you play Monopoly, you got to go around the board once before you start buying up some stuff. Now look, those is house rules. The actual game of Monopoly says that once you land on the property, you got to either buy it or they got to put it up for auction. That's the game board rules. But most Black families are like, nah, you got to go around the board once, right? But going around the board, what does that mean? That's time, right? Are you going to land on that property again? And will you have enough money to actually buy it the next time, or will it be gone? So I want us to think about those things and be intentional. This is going to be fun. And I can't wait to hear back from everybody next week on this homework assignment, because I think it's going to be awesome. Well, that is it for me. Michelle, I didn't know if I needed to close out.
You all, we are excited about tonight. It was amazing. And we're looking forward to next week. We want you all to share this information. Hopefully that you would have more people to come on. We've got some great things to look forward to in the next couple of weeks. Thank you all for viewing with us, and we'll see you for the Salem Hour next week.